Ravi worked as a garbage collector in a quiet town that always seemed peaceful in the early morning. Every day he woke up before sunrise and prepared for his shift with steady routine. He tied his shoes, washed his face, and walked out of his small house with a calm mind. He never complained about his work because he believed every job had dignity. His truck partner, a friendly older man named Imran, always waited for him near the first street of their route. Together, they drove through the empty roads with the soft sound of the engine breaking the silence. The morning air was fresh as Ravi jumped off the truck and began lifting the first bags into the back. He had done this for years, so the rhythm of the job was familiar. He often hummed songs while working, and sometimes Imran joked that Ravi was happier than anyone else in the whole street. But on this particular morning, something felt slightly different. The sky was dim, and the silence around them felt deeper than usual, almost as if the town was holding its breath. They reached the old apartment building near the river. This building had many narrow alleys behind it, where people often forgot to place their trash properly. Ravi always took extra time here because he believed his work should look neat. He walked into the alley, expecting the usual mix of small bags and cardboard boxes. Instead, he saw a large black bag sitting alone near the wall. It looked bigger than the rest and seemed oddly shaped. He bent down, grabbed the top of the bag, and tried to lift it. The bag barely moved. Ravi frowned and tightened his grip. He tried again with more strength. The bag lifted a little, but felt far heavier than a normal trash bag. Something inside shifted with a solid thud, like a hard object pressing against the plastic. He looked at the bag carefully. It was tied using thick tape instead of a simple knot. This made him more curious. He called to Imran and said he found a very heavy one. Imran replied that some people put old books or broken utensils, so it might just be normal junk. Ravi nodded and prepared himself to lift it properly. He placed both hands firmly around the top and pulled with steady force. The bag lifted off the ground, but the weight made him lose balance for a moment. He adjusted his footing and began walking toward the truck, holding the bag against his chest. The weight pressed into his arms and shoulders. Ravi thought about how odd it was for anyone to throw away something so heavy, especially in a building where most residents lived alone and rarely had large items. When Ravi reached the back of the truck, he tried to push the heavy bag onto the lift. But as he shifted it to one side, the bottom of the bag scraped against the edge of the metal panel. That small scrape was enough to tear a corner of the bag. A ripping sound came from the bottom. Ravi quickly tightened his grip, but the damage was already done. Something inside the bag moved and pressed hard against the tier. The bag slipped from his hands and dropped to the ground with a dull, heavy sound. Ravi stepped back in surprise. The bag rolled slightly to the side, and the tier widened. A few crumpled papers spilled out. Then something metallic slid forward and tapped the ground. Ravi stared at it. It was not a kitchen pot or broken machine part. It was a metal box with a thick clasp on the front. The surface of the box looked old, but it was clean and had an unusual shine under the morning light. Ravi felt a strange chill. He had never seen something like this thrown away so casually. He crouched down and gently pushed aside the loose papers around the box. The papers were clean and looked untouched. He lifted one of the papers. It was blank. The other papers that came out were also blank. It looked like someone had placed these papers simply to fill space around the metal box. He looked back at the torn bag. The box inside was not damaged at all. Ravi reached for it slowly. When he touched it, he felt the cold metal surface and realized the box was heavier than it looked. It felt important. It felt like something that did not belong in garbage. He turned it in his hands and examined it carefully. There was no name, no sticker, no tag on it. There were no scratches or signs of old rust. It was locked tightly, and the clasp looked strong enough to protect something valuable. Imran walked over to see what was taking Ravi so long. When he saw the metal box, his eyes widened with surprise. He asked where it came from. Ravi pointed at the torn bag. Imran folded his arms and leaned down to inspect the box. He said it looked strange and asked if Ravi wanted to take it to the police station. Ravi was not sure yet. He had no idea what was inside, but something in his mind told him that this was not something a normal person would throw away. Ravi stood up, holding the box close. He felt uneasy, not because he feared danger, but because the whole situation felt out of place. He tried to think logically. People threw away unusual things all the time. Perhaps the box was empty, and someone just wanted to get rid of it. But the fact that the bag was taped tightly and hidden in the corner made Ravi feel that someone wanted to hide it carefully. He placed the box on the back of the truck and looked again inside the torn bag. Under the ripped plastic, he saw 3 sealed envelopes lying flat. They were plain white envelopes with no writing on them. They were perfectly clean and showed no signs of moisture or dirt. Ravi reached for one of them and held it up. It felt weightless, almost like it contained only a folded paper. He placed the envelopes beside the box and checked the remaining contents of the bag. There was nothing else inside, only the torn plastic and a few blank papers. Ravi could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. If someone wanted to hide something valuable, why throw it away? If it was unimportant, why place it inside a heavy box and wrap it tightly with tape? The whole situation did not make sense. Ravi rubbed the back of his neck and stared at the items spread out in front of him. He felt responsible for handling this properly. He could not simply throw the box into the truck and crush it with the rest of the garbage. He also did not want to leave it behind without understanding who it belonged to. Martin watched Ravi quietly. He knew Ravi was a careful and honest man who never ignored anything unusual. He asked Ravi what he planned to do next. Ravi said he wanted to look at the box more closely before making a decision. He picked it up again and checked the clasp. It was tightly locked and had no keyhole that he could easily identify. It looked like a special type of lock that required a specific tool. The more he looked at it, the more he felt certain that the box did not belong in garbage. The town around them was beginning to wake up. A few windows opened above the alley, and people started moving inside their homes. The soft sound of birds filled the air. Ravi took a deep breath and tried to clear his mind. He knew he needed to act with care. He placed the box and envelopes in a clean spot on the truck floor and stood there thinking. He knew this was not something he could ignore. Whatever was inside that box had been hidden for a reason, and the person who hid it had chosen a lonely corner of an alley behind an old building, hoping no one would notice. But Ravi had noticed, and the heavy bag had opened a path he did not expect. Ravi stood beside the truck with the metal box and sealed envelopes placed neatly on the flat surface. The morning light grew stronger as the sun rose over the rooftops. Shadows in the alley began to fade, yet the strange feeling inside Ravi's chest only increased. He had found many odd things during his job, but nothing like this. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his mind as he tried to understand what he had uncovered. Imra leaned against the truck and watched Ravi with calm eyes. He knew Ravi was thinking deeply, and he did not want to interrupt. Ravi usually made good decisions, so Imran believed he would handle things wisely. After a short silence, he asked Ravi if he wanted to check the envelopes. Ravi hesitated but finally nodded. He picked one of the envelopes and held it carefully. It felt almost weightless. The paper was smooth and clean. He slid his finger under the flap and opened it slowly. Inside was a single folded paper. Ravi unfolded it, expecting words, symbols, or drawings. Instead, the page was blank. Not a single mark was on it. Ravi frowned and checked again under the light. Still nothing. He opened the second envelope next. It also held one blank paper. He repeated the process with the third envelope. The result was the same. 3 envelopes, 3 blank pages. Ravi felt confused. Why would someone seal blank papers in envelopes and place them inside a heavy metal box? And why hide the box inside a trash bag? None of it made sense. He looked at Imran and asked what he thought. Imran scratched his chin and said that maybe the papers were once used for something, but later erased. Or maybe someone planned to write something but changed their mind. Ravi listened, but he felt the explanation was not enough. The box itself still captured his attention the most. It was heavy and locked with a firm clasp. It was clear that someone had taken great care of it. Ravi wondered if the blank papers were meant to confuse anyone who found them. He placed the envelopes back on the truck's surface and lifted the box again. The cold metal was smooth and the lock felt solid. Ravi turned it over gently, examining every side. There were no scratches, dents, or marks. It almost looked like a box made to protect something very important. Ravi sighed and placed the box back down. He looked around the alley and noticed something he had missed earlier. Near the wall, under a small pile of dust, there was a thin piece of black tape. It looked like the same type of tape used to wrap the garbage bag. Ravi walked over and picked it up. It was stiff and strong, not the usual kind people used for household items. He put the tape in his pocket and returned to the truck. Imran looked at the sky and said they still had many streets left to cover. Ravi agreed, but he could not shake the feeling that the metal box demanded attention. He told Imran they would finish their work, but he wanted to take the box to the nearest station afterward. Imran nodded without hesitation. He trusted Ravi's judgment. Together, they lifted the torn bag, removed the loose papers, and then cleaned the alley before leaving. The rest of the route took longer than usual, because Ravi kept thinking about the box. Every time he picked up a new bag, his mind drifted back to the moment the metal box slid out. He remembered the unusual weight, the way the bag tore, and the strange blank envelopes. Imran noticed Ravi was quiet, but he did not disturb him. He knew Ravi needed time to think. As they drove through the town, Ravi studied the people on the sidewalks. Every face looked normal. Every routine seemed peaceful. But he could not shake the idea that someone had tried to hide something. He wondered if the person lived in the old apartment building. He wondered if the box had been stored in a room for years before being thrown away. He even wondered if the person who placed it there felt nervous when doing so. Imran said that after their shift ended, he would go home while Ravi could take the box to the proper place. Ravi agreed. The rest of the morning passed with slow tension building in his heart. Even though he tried to focus on work, the thought of the box kept returning. By the time their route was complete, Ravi felt mentally tired. When they parked the truck at the depot, Imran patted Ravi's shoulder and reminded him to be careful. Ravi thanked him and carefully lifted the box from the truck. It still felt heavy, both in weight and in mystery. The envelopes were placed safely in his bag. He locked the truck and began walking toward the nearby station on foot. The streets were now busy with midday traffic. People walked quickly, children rode bicycles, and shopkeepers arranged goods outside their stores. Ravi held the box close to his chest as he walked. He felt protective of it, even though he had no idea what it contained. He passed by a small park where children laughed and played. Their joyful voices made him feel a little lighter, but the weight of the box reminded him of the task he had to complete. He crossed a street and approached a corner where an elderly man sold tea from a wooden cart. The man knew Ravi well and greeted him warmly. Ravi smiled and greeted him back, but he did not stop. He needed to stay focused. The station was a few minutes away. When he reached the gate, he slowed down and took a deep breath. He walked inside and approached the reception desk where a polite officer sat. The officer asked how he could help. Ravi explained that he had found something unusual during his route and wanted to hand it over. The officer asked what it was. Ravi placed the metal box on the desk. The officer raised his eyebrows slightly, surprised by its appearance. He asked where Ravi found it. Ravi explained every detail honestly. He described the heavy bag, the torn corner, the blank papers, and the hidden envelopes. The officer listened carefully and nodded. The officer picked up the box but quickly realized it was heavier than expected. He called another officer over. The two of them inspected the box from the outside, checking the clasp and the surface. They spoke in low voices, analyzing the situation. Ravi stood quietly, waiting for instructions. He felt a mix of concern and relief. He had done his duty as a responsible worker, and now the box was in safer hands. After a few minutes, one of the officers asked Ravi if he knew anything else about the building or who might have thrown the bag. Ravi explained that the building had many residents and that the bags were always placed in the alley. He could not say who had put the bag there. The officer understood and thanked Ravi for bringing the box instead of ignoring it. He said that sometimes small actions helped solve larger matters. Ravi felt a warm sense of pride. He had acted honestly and carefully, but he also felt curious. He wondered if he would ever know what was inside the box. He wondered if the officers would tell him anything later. The officer asked for his contact number, so they could reach him if needed. Ravi provided it and prepared to leave. As he stepped outside the station, he felt the afternoon breeze touch his face. The weight of the box was gone, but the mystery remained in his thoughts. He walked toward the tea cart, where the elderly man still stood. Ravi decided to stop and buy a warm cup. As he held the cup and sipped the tea slowly, he felt a little more relaxed. The tea seller asked if everything was all right. Ravi simply said he had a busy morning. He did not want to share the details until he understood more himself. He walked back toward his home with steady steps. His mind replayed the morning again and again. The blank papers, the sealed envelopes, the cold metal surface. He knew something important was hidden inside that box, and he knew someone, somewhere, had tried to get rid of it quietly. The afternoon sun cast long shadows on the ground as Ravi walked. The world around him looked normal, but inside his mind, the mystery grew bigger. He reached home and sat down on his small porch. He watched people pass by as he thought about the day. He did not know what would happen next, or if the officers would call him again. But he did know one thing. The story was not over yet. The metal box was only the beginning, and the truth behind it was waiting to come out. Ravi woke up early the next morning, even though he had gone to bed late. His mind had stayed busy all night thinking about the metal box he had found in the heavy bag. He kept remembering the blank envelopes and the weight of the box. Even in his dreams, he saw the clasp that refused to open. When he washed his face and looked at himself in the mirror, he noticed that he looked more tired than usual. Still, he knew he had to go to work. His routine never stopped, and life moved forward as always. He left his house and walked toward the depot. The streets were cool and quiet. The gentle wind moved through the trees, and birds called from the rooftops. Ravi tried to focus on the peaceful morning, but his mind stayed on the metal box. He wondered if the officers had opened it. He wondered if they would call him today. He tried to push the thoughts aside, but they always returned. When he reached the depot, Imran was already waiting near the truck. Imran asked how Ravi was feeling. Ravi said he did not sleep well because he was thinking too much. Imran smiled and told him that curiosity was natural. Anyone would think about such a strange item. They climbed into the truck, started the engine, and drove on to their usual route as they worked. Ravi could not help glancing at the old apartment building whenever they passed nearby. The building looked ordinary, with laundry hanging from balconies and plants growing in small pots. But now it felt different to Ravi. It felt like something hidden had once lived inside it. He wondered if the person who placed the heavy bag there was watching the alley when he found it. He wondered if that person felt worried now. The thought made him uneasy, but he continued with his job. Around mid-morning, his phone vibrated inside his pocket. He stopped lifting a bag and checked the screen. The number was unknown. Ravi felt a sudden tightness in his chest. He stepped aside and answered the call. A calm voice introduced itself as an officer from the station. The officer asked if Ravi could come by when his shift ended, because they had something to discuss regarding the box. Ravi agreed. He asked if everything was all right. The officer told him not to worry, and that they simply needed to ask him a few more questions. After ending the call, Ravi slipped the phone back into his pocket. Imran asked who it was. Ravi explained, and Imran encouraged him to go after work. Ravi nodded. The rest of the shift passed slowly as Ravi kept thinking about the meeting. When their work finally ended, Ravi cleaned up, washed his hands, and walked toward the station. The sun hung high in the sky, and the air felt warm on his skin. The station looked busy with officers walking in and out. Ravi entered and approached the reception desk. The same polite officer he had met yesterday greeted him. The officer asked him to wait for a moment. After a few minutes, another officer came out from a side room and called Ravi inside. Ravi followed him through a short hallway and entered a small office. In the center of the table sat the metal box. The clasp was now open, and the lid was slightly lifted. Ravi felt his heart beat faster. He did not expect to see the box unlocked. The officer invited Ravi to sit. Then he carefully lifted the lid of the box. Ravi leaned slightly forward to see inside. What he saw made him blink in surprise. The box contained several thin notebooks stacked neatly on one side. Each notebook was bound with a simple black cover. Next to them lay a small rectangular device with a small screen. Ravi did not know what the device was, but it looked like something used for recording or storing data. The officer explained that the blank papers Ravi found in the envelopes were not the real contents. They had been placed there to hide the notebooks better. The notebooks were thin, but filled with pages of handwritten notes. None of the notes had names or clear explanations. The officer said they were still analyzing the writing to understand what it meant. Ravi asked what kind of writing it was. The officer said the writing looked like lists of dates, times, and places. The notebooks also contained drawings of simple maps. Each drawing had arrows pointing toward different buildings or streets. Ravi asked if the notes were dangerous. The officer smiled lightly and said there was nothing harmful inside the box. The notebooks only seemed mysterious because they were hidden. He said they just needed to learn who the notebooks belonged to and why someone threw them away. Ravi listened carefully but still felt puzzled. He asked why someone would hide notebooks with dates and maps. The officer said they did not know yet. Some people kept records of different things for personal reasons. The officer said the person who wrote these notes might have wanted to hide them or discard them quietly. He assured Ravi that the matter was not dangerous, and that Ravi had done the right thing by bringing the box in. Ravi felt relieved. Still, he wondered why the device inside the box was there. He pointed to it and asked what it was. The officer explained that the small device was a simple electronic recorder. It could store voice notes or short messages. The officer pressed a button and showed Ravi that it still had some battery left. But all the recorded files were locked behind a password. They had not managed to access the audio yet. They would need some time to unlock it safely. Ravi found the situation more interesting than worrying now. The officer asked him a few more questions about the building, the alley, and the residents. Ravi answered everything honestly. Then the officer thanked him again for being responsible and bringing the box forward. Before Ravi could leave, the officer said something that made him stop. He said that one person from the apartment building had come earlier that morning, asking if anyone found a metal box. Ravi looked at the officer with surprise. The officer explained that they had not given any information to the visitor. They had simply noted the person's details and asked them to wait for updates. Ravi felt a sudden wave of curiosity. He asked who the person was and what they said. The officer said he could not share details since it was part of their work, but he reassured Ravi that everything was under control. Ravi thanked the officer and finally left the station. The warm afternoon sun felt pleasant on his skin, but his mind was full again. If someone from the building had come to ask for the box, it meant the box did not belong to a stranger. It belonged to someone nearby. Someone who lived only a short walk from where Ravi found it. The thought made him feel both curious and cautious. He walked slowly back toward the main road. The sounds of traffic and people talking filled the air, but Ravi barely noticed them. His thoughts were too busy. Why would someone hide notebooks full of dates and maps? Why leave them in a heavy box inside a sealed bag? Why come to the station to ask about it only after it was found? When Ravi reached the tea seller's cart, the elderly man smiled and asked if he wanted his usual cup. Ravi nodded and leaned against the side of the cart while sipping his warm tea. The seller asked if Ravi's day went well. Ravi replied that it was interesting, but he could not share details. The seller said that sometimes interesting days brought answers, and sometimes they brought more questions. Ravi smiled at the wise comment. On his way home, Ravi passed by the old apartment building. He stopped for a moment and looked at it from the street. People moved around their balconies and windows as if everything was normal. Ravi wondered if one of those people was the person who asked the station about the box. He wondered if that person watched him when he found the heavy bag in the alley. He wondered if the person now regretted throwing the box away as Ravi continued walking. It felt a mix of curiosity and calmness. He had done what he was supposed to do, and now the officers were handling everything. He reached home, sat on his porch, and looked at the sky as the sun prepared to set. He thought about how one ordinary morning had turned into a mystery. He did not know it yet. But the next part of the story was about to pull him deeper into the truth. Ravi slept more peacefully that night than he expected. Now that he knew the box did not contain anything harmful, his mind felt lighter. Still, the mystery behind the notebooks and the recorder stayed deep in his thoughts. When he woke up, the sun was already bright in the sky. He got ready for work, tied his shoes, and stepped outside with steady steps. He felt calm but curious about what the officers might discover next. At the depot, Imran greeted him with a warm smile. Imran asked if the officers had opened the box. Ravi told him everything he saw yesterday. Imran listened with interest and said the notebook sounded unusual. He wondered aloud what kind of person kept lists of dates and places in secret. Ravi did not have an answer. Together they climbed into the truck and began their route. They moved from street to street, lifting bags, clearing corners, and greeting familiar shopkeepers. Ravi liked the rhythm of work. It kept his mind steady. But each time they passed near the old apartment building, Ravi felt a soft pull in his mind, as if the building held answers he could not reach. He remembered the officer saying that someone from the building had come asking about the box. That detail stayed with him like a shadow. Mid-morning passed quietly. Ravi tried to stay focused on his tasks, but his mind wandered again and again. He wondered if the person who asked about the box would try to find him. The thought made him uneasy, but he trusted the officers. They had handled everything professionally. After their shift, Ravi and Imran returned the truck to the depot. Imran reminded him to stay alert and not worry too much. Ravi nodded and walked home. The afternoon breeze was soft and cool. Ravi bought tea on his way and drank it slowly as he walked. He reached his small house and sat down to rest. Day felt normal. He cleaned a few things in his kitchen, watered the plants on his porch, and prepared a simple meal. As the sun began to lower, he stepped outside to enjoy the peaceful light of evening. But his quiet moment ended when he noticed someone standing near the edge of the street looking toward his house. The person was a man wearing simple clothes and carrying a small bag. He did not look dangerous or tense, but something about the way he stood made Ravi alert. The man glanced around nervously before slowly walking toward Ravi. Ravi stood still and waited. When the man came closer, he stopped a few feet away and greeted Ravi politely. His voice was calm, but Ravi sensed a hint of hesitation. The man asked if he was speaking to Ravi, the garbage worker from the old apartment area. Ravi nodded slowly. The man introduced himself as Samir. He said he lived in the apartment building where Ravi had found the heavy bag. Ravi felt a wave of curiosity mixed with caution. He asked Samir how he knew where he lived. Samir explained that he had asked a few residents who knew Ravi from his daily route. They told him the general area where Ravi stayed. Samir claimed he did not want to disturb him but needed to talk. Ravi asked what he wanted. Samir looked around again and then focused on Ravi. With serious eyes, Samir said he heard from someone at the station that a metal box had been turned in. Ravi felt the ground shift slightly beneath his feet. Samir continued talking. He said a friend told him that the officers had asked a few questions earlier in the day about bags from the apartment area. Samir said he put the details together and guessed it must have been Ravi who brought the box. Ravi listened carefully but did not respond at once. He felt his heart beat faster. Samir did not seem angry or dangerous, but something about his tone made Ravi cautious. Ravi asked Samir why he had come looking for the box. Samir took a deep breath and explained that the box belonged to his late uncle. He said his uncle had lived in the apartment for a short time before passing away. After his uncle's belongings were cleared, Samir found the box at the back of a closet. He did not know what was inside, but he believed it had sentimental value. Ravi asked why Samir threw it away if it was important. Samir paused. He said he did not throw it away. He said he left the box inside his uncle's room while organizing things. He insisted that he never placed it in a garbage bag. Ravi studied Samir's face. The man did not look like he was lying, but Ravi could not be sure. Ravi asked if he had a key to open the box. Samir shook his head and said he did not even know the box was locked. He only realized it was missing when he returned to the room a few days later. Ravi felt confused. Samir's story did not match what the officer had suggested. The officer said someone came looking for the box but did not give details. Samir could be telling the truth, or he could be hiding something. Ravi decided to stay calm. He told Samir that the box was now with the officers, and that he should speak with them if he wanted it returned. Samir nodded but looked worried. Samir asked if Ravi had opened the box. Ravi said he did not open it, and the officers handled everything. Samir asked if Ravi knew what was inside. Ravi said he had only seen notebooks and a small device. When Samir heard this, he grew tense. His eyes lowered, and he pressed his lips together. Ravi noticed the sudden change. Samir asked if he could tell him more about the notebooks. Ravi said he did not know anything else. He only saw that they had handwritten pages. Samir took a slow breath and looked around again. He said his uncle used to write down small details of his daily routine because he had trouble remembering things. Ravi listened, but could not understand why someone would hide such a simple habit inside. A metal box. Ravi asked why the box was locked tightly. Samir said his uncle had a habit of locking everything he owned, even unimportant items. It was a habit from his younger years. Ravi tried to read Samir's expression. Samir looked troubled, as if he was not telling everything. But Ravi chose not to push him. It was not his job to judge the truth. Samir thanked Ravi for listening and asked if he could meet the officers together with him. Ravi said the officers would handle the matter directly and that Samir should visit the station himself. Samir nodded slowly. He looked down for a moment, then looked up with a soft expression. He thanked Ravi again and said he hoped the box would be returned soon. Before leaving, Samir asked one final question. He asked if Ravi had found anything else inside the bag besides the box. Ravi shook his head. Samir seemed relieved, but only slightly. He walked away down the road with slow steps and disappeared around the corner. Ravi stood still for a while after Samir left. He felt a strange heaviness in his chest. Something about Samir's visit felt incomplete. His words were calm, but his worry seemed real. Ravi could tell that the box meant something important to Samir, but he could not understand why. He sat down on his porch chair and watched the street. A few children played nearby. Adults walked past on their way home from work. Everything around him looked normal. But inside Ravi's mind, the mystery grew deeper. He wondered if Samir had told the full truth. He wondered if the notebooks really belonged to Samir's uncle. He wondered how the box ended up taped inside a garbage bag. And he wondered why Samir's face changed when he heard about the notebooks. The sun slowly set beyond the buildings as Ravi sat thinking. He knew the officers would call him again soon. He knew the notebooks had more meaning than simple routine notes. And he knew Samir's visit was only the beginning of something bigger. Ravi did not know the full truth yet, but he was about to learn that the box he found was not forgotten by accident. It had been placed there by someone who wanted to hide it. And now that it was found, that secret was slowly rising to the surface. Ravi stood near the police car while the officers continued to check the metal box, the envelopes, and the strange device. The morning sun rose higher in the sky, bringing light to the narrow street. Ravi watched the officers talking to each other. Their expressions were serious but calm. He felt a mix of worry and curiosity. He wanted to know what he had found and why it was hidden in a trash bag that ended up in his hands. He had done what he believed was right, but the situation still felt larger than him. The senior officer, a man named Adil, walked toward him. Adil had a kind face and steady voice. He thanked Ravi again for calling 911. He told him that the items in the metal box were connected to an important case that the department had been trying to solve for a long time. Ravi listened carefully. He did not want to miss a single detail. Adil explained that someone had been trying to hide information that could affect many people. The documents in the box carried numbers, listings, and notes that the police had been searching for. Ravi felt a sense of relief. He understood that his quick decision had helped the police in a meaningful way. Adil placed a reassuring hand on Ravi's shoulder. He told him that the department respected his honesty and courage. Ravi felt emotional but kept his composure. He never imagined that his simple morning routine of collecting garbage would place him in such an important moment. He had always believed that every job had value, but today he felt that belief more strongly than ever. He felt proud that he did not ignore what he saw. Instead, he trusted his instincts and acted responsibly. While the officers continued their work, Ravi stepped aside and leaned on his truck. He closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. The tension he felt since the moment the heavy bag slipped from his hands slowly started to fade. He remembered how surprised he had been when the bag burst open and the metal box fell out. At that moment, he thought it was something simple. Later, he understood that it was far more serious. He had acted with patience and caution, and that decision had made a difference. The police team packed the items carefully and prepared to take them to the station. Adil asked Ravi if he wanted to provide a short report for their files. Ravi agreed without hesitation. He wanted to be honest and give them all the details he could remember. They stood near the back of the truck, and Adil wrote down Ravi's statements. Ravi described how he had lifted the heavy bag, how it slipped and tore, and how he found the metal box and envelopes inside. He explained how he felt that something was wrong and why he decided to call 911. Adil thanked him again and said the department appreciated his help. Once the officers were done, they told Ravi he was free to continue his workday. Ravi nodded, but he did not rush to climb back into the truck. He needed a moment to absorb everything. The street was brighter now, and people had begun to step outside their homes. They did not know what had happened, but Ravi knew the morning would stay in his memory for a long time. He stood quietly and watched the police cars leave. When the last car drove away, the street became calm once again. Ravi finally returned to his truck and sat in the driver's seat. He looked at his hands for a moment. They were steady again. He started the engine, and the familiar sound brought comfort. It felt like life was returning to normal. But he knew he would not forget the important lesson he had learned. Sometimes unexpected things appear in simple places. Sometimes an ordinary task can lead to something much bigger. He felt thankful that he made the right decision at the right time. As he drove toward the next street on his route, Ravi noticed how peaceful the town looked. The trees swayed gently, and a few birds flew across the sky. The sight brought him calmness. The incident earlier had shaken him, but now he felt stronger. He understood that doing the right thing was not always easy, but it brought a sense of peace that stayed with him. He continued his work with new energy. Each bag he lifted reminded him that responsibility mattered in every task. Later that afternoon, when he returned to the company office, his supervisor called him inside. The supervisor had already received a call from the police. The officers had informed him about what happened. The supervisor praised Ravi for his honesty and awareness. He told Ravi that he had set a positive example for everyone in the team. Ravi felt warm inside. He had always tried to do his job well. Today he had exceeded even his own expectations. Some of his coworkers gathered around him, curious to know what happened. Ravi shared the story in simple words. He did not exaggerate anything. He told them how he found the box and why he called the police. His coworkers listened with interest and respect. They told him that he handled the situation wisely. One of them even said that Ravi's careful eye probably helped prevent a bigger problem in the town. Ravi smiled politely. He was not seeking praise, but he appreciated their kind words. When he went home later in the evening, Ravi felt tired but satisfied. His small home felt warm and welcoming. He washed his face, sat on a chair, and closed his eyes. The events replayed in his mind. He remembered the sound of the bag falling, the look of the metal box, and the moment he dialed 911. Each step reminded him of how important it was to stay alert. He also felt grateful that the police responded quickly and treated him with respect. He knew that teamwork between ordinary people and authorities kept communities safe. Ravi cooked a simple meal and sat near the window while eating. The sky outside slowly turned orange and then purple. The quietness of the evening gave him time to think deeply. He realized that life often brought surprises when least expected. He had started the day like any other, but it had become a day that changed his understanding of responsibility. He felt proud that he trusted his instincts instead of ignoring the strange bag. He learned that doing the right thing could protect many people, even if the person making the choice did not fully understand the impact at first. Before going to bed, Ravi decided to sit outside for a few minutes. The air was cool, and a gentle breeze passed through the trees. The streetlights glowed softly at the corners. He breathed deeply and felt calmness spread through him. He remembered the encouraging words Adil had spoken to him. He remembered the thankful look on the faces of the officers. He understood that he had played a small but important part in a larger story. As he walked inside again, he felt ready to rest. He lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. His thoughts were quiet now. He felt proud, relieved, and grateful. The events of the day had shown him that everyone played a role in keeping their town safe. Even a garbage worker like him could make a difference. That thought filled him with strength. He closed his eyes and drifted into sleep with a peaceful mind. The next morning, Ravi woke up early as usual. The day felt fresh and new. He prepared for work with a lighter heart. The memory of yesterday stayed with him, but it no longer made him anxious. Instead, it inspired him. He drove his truck through the familiar streets, feeling connected to the community he served. Every sound and every sight reminded him that he was part of something meaningful. The town continued its daily routine. People walked to shops, children played in parks, and families prepared for their day. They did not know everything that had happened, but they enjoyed the safety and calmness around them. Ravi smiled as he collected the bins along each street. He felt satisfied knowing he had contributed to that calmness. He did not need recognition. The quiet pride he felt was enough for him. As the day went on, he thought about how life could change in a single moment. A heavy bag, a sudden slip, a hidden box, and a phone call had shaped a memory he would carry forever. He felt thankful for his steady mind and responsible decision. His work continued, but his heart held a deeper sense of purpose now. Ravi finished his route by late afternoon. As he parked the truck and stepped outside, he looked at the sky. The soft light filled the horizon. He felt peaceful. He knew that every day would bring new tasks, new challenges, and new choices. But after everything that happened, he felt ready for them. His courage had been tested, and he had passed the test with honesty. Ravi walked home with steady steps. He felt proud of who he was and what he had done. His day had started with a heavy bag, but it ended with a lighter heart. And that was more than he had ever expected.